The wind howled across the desert canyon, carrying the stench of smoke and gunpowder. A lone wagon lay overturned, its wheels shattered, a trail of blood leading into the rocks. Clara staggered forward, eyes wide, heart pounding, hearing the men shouting behind her. A gunman appeared from the shadows, a figure gaunt and haunted, his coat tattered, eyes dark with memories that could kill him as easily as his enemies. He leveled his pistol at the pursuers without hesitation, a single, grim decision rippling through the dry air. In that instant, Clara realized her survival depended on trusting someone whose past might be as dangerous as the men hunting them both. Every heartbeat carried a choice: fight, flee, or die. The sun was a pale, burning disk over the desert horizon, casting long shadows across the jagged rocks. Clara stumbled over loose stones, boots soaked in dust and sweat. Behind her, the shouts of men bounty hunters echoed across the canyon walls. She risked a glance back. Two riders were gaining ground, rifles raised. Panic clawed at her chest. Every instinct screamed to run, yet her legs burned with exhaustion. A sudden figure appeared ahead, a man, tall, gaunt, wearing a tattered coat, eyes dark as midnight. Clara skidded to a halt, heart pounding. "Keep moving," he said without preamble, voice low and calm, carrying an authority that made her pause but obey. The riders slowed, uncertain, as if sensing a force they had underestimated. The man raised a pistol. Sunlight gleamed off the barrel. Clara's breath caught. He fired once. One rider tumbled, limbs flailing in the dirt. The other hesitated. The sound of gunfire was thunderous, echoing off stone. "Run," he commanded. Clara didn't wait. She pushed forward, legs trembling, following the man into a narrow canyon pass. The shadows swallowed them, offering temporary concealment from the relentless hunters. Who are you?" Clara gasped, finally daring to speak. The man's gaze didn't waver. "Call me Gabriel. Keep your head down, or you won't see sunset." She noted the scars along his jaw, the hollow look in his eyes, a haunted expression that suggested pain, regret, and history heavy enough to crush a man. "Why are you helping me?" she asked, fear and confusion mingling. He exhaled, the sound harsh in the dry air. "Does it matter? Tonight, we survive. Tomorrow, we deal with the rest." Lightning cracked across the horizon, a storm rolling in. It mirrored the tension coiling in her chest. Trust had never been easy, and now it was demanded by a man she barely knew, whose path seemed as dangerous as the enemies pursuing them. The canyon walls narrowed. Mud and stones made footing treacherous. Every step could be fatal. Clara's grip on her satchel tightened. Gabriel glanced back once, gun ready. "Move faster. They'll take chances now." Fear surged through her, mingled with a flicker of reliance she wasn't ready to admit. For the first time in hours, she realized that survival meant something. More than running, it meant leaning on someone else. Even a haunted gunman like Gabriel. The canyon swallowed their shadows, and the hunters' shouts grew distant. But Clara knew the night was far from over. The canyon narrowed, shadows stretching across jagged walls as Clara struggled to keep pace with Gabriel. Her lungs burned with every breath, her legs screaming in protest. But she forced herself onward. Behind them, the distant shouts of the hunters faded and returned in bursts, a relentless reminder that escape was temporary. Gabriel led her to a small alcove where rocks formed a crude shelter. Rain had begun to fall, light at first, then heavier, soaking the desert dust and turning the ground into slick, treacherous mud. He motioned for her to crouch, keeping her low. "Sit, quietly," he said, voice calm but carrying an edge that brooked no argument. Clara obeyed, knees drawn up, heart hammering. She dared to study him. Gaunt cheeks, weathered skin, eyes that had seen too much. There was a haunted quality to him, as if each step forward carried ghosts of past violence. "Why are you out here alone?" she asked cautiously, keeping her voice low. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, his eyes scanned the canyon entrance, then returned to her. "Some ghosts follow me," he said finally. "Most I've earned. Some were given." Clara's stomach twisted. She sensed the weight of his past, the burden he carried silently. And yet, he was willing to risk everything to help her. Thunder rolled over the canyon, the sky dark and threatening. Rain plastered her hair to her face, dripping into her eyes. She blinked, seeing Gabriel's profile cut sharp against the storm. "We need to keep moving," he said. "They won't stop until they find you. And if I stay too long, I can't guarantee either of us will make it." Her hands tightened around the strap of her satchel. I don't know if I can trust you," she admitted, voice trembling. He didn't flinch. "You don't have to trust me. You just have to follow me. Tonight, survival matters more than trust." A flash of lightning illuminated the jagged canyon walls. For a heartbeat, Clara saw the scars along Gabriel's hands, the way he gripped his gun as though it were an extension of himself. Survival was more than a choice, it was a reckoning. The wind shrieked through the rocks, rain lashing their faces. Clara felt every instinct screaming to run, to hide, to collapse, but she forced herself forward, following the haunted gunman who had become her only chance. As they disappeared into the shadows of the canyon, the distant shouts of the hunters grew louder again. Every step carried danger. Every moment was a decision between life and death. Clara realized, with a shiver she couldn't shake, that the night ahead would test them both in ways she couldn't yet imagine. The storm wasn't just outside, it was in them, and it had only just begun. Rain pounded the canyon floor, turning loose soil into slick, treacherous mud. Clara struggled to keep her footing, boots sliding with every step. Her satchel was heavy, waterlogged, and the boyish weight of exhaustion pressed on her shoulders like a physical force. Gabriel led the way, moving with uncanny precision through the chaos. His eyes scanned every rock, every shadow, every glint of movement. He had seen too much, survived too much, to allow chance to dictate this night. Stay close, he warned, voice low. One wrong step, and this canyon becomes a grave. Clara nodded, heart hammering. Her trust in him was tentative, built from the sheer necessity of survival rather than belief in his goodness. Yet she felt the subtle steadiness he provided, like an anchor in the storm. A flash of lightning revealed a jagged boulder precariously balanced above the path. Clara froze. Gabriel shoved her aside just as it crashed to the ground, mud spraying like shattered glass. Watch it, he barked, then immediately softened. You'll live if you follow me. She swallowed, feeling the surge of adrenaline and fear mingle into something dangerous and vital. Every step demanded focus, courage, and a willingness to rely on someone she barely knew. They moved in silence, interrupted only by the roar of the storm and the distant, uncertain shouts of the hunters. Occasionally, Gabriel's voice cut through, a warning, an instruction, a quiet observation that spoke volumes about his experience in survival and danger. At one point, he paused near a narrow ledge. Rainwater sluiced down the rock, threatening to sweep them both away. He extended a hand. Clara hesitated, then took it, feeling his grip firm and steady, a lifeline in more ways than one. You've survived worse than storms before, haven't you? He asked, almost rhetorically. She shook her head, but a small part of her knew he was right. She had survived pain, betrayal, and fear, but not like this. Not with a man whose past was as haunted as the night around them. Lightning illuminated his face. For a moment, she glimpsed the weight in his eyes, the ghosts that trailed him, the violence he carried, the nights he had spent alone, haunted by mistakes he could never undo. The canyon was relentless, the storm unyielding, and yet the connection between them, fragile and wary, began to take root. Clara realized that survival wasn't just about outrunning hunters. It was about facing the storm together. The storm's fury showed no mercy. Rain lashed at their faces, mud sucking at their boots as Clara and Gabriel pressed forward, navigating a canyon slick with debris. Every step was a gamble, every shadow a potential threat. Gabriel kept his pistol drawn, eyes scanning the darkness beyond the rocky walls. Clara followed close, her chest heaving from exertion, muscles trembling. She had never been so aware of her own fragility or of her dependence on another human being. Do you always travel alone? She asked cautiously, voice barely audible over the storm. Gabriel's jaw tightened. Not always, but I survive better that way. Fewer attachments, fewer liabilities. His gaze flicked to hers. Tonight, you're an exception. Clara's stomach nodded. The words were a warning and a promise. She sensed the tension between his haunted past and the choice he was making now, to protect someone despite the danger it brought. Suddenly, a distant shout echoed through the canyon. Clara froze. Gabriel crouched low, gun ready. Shadows moved near the canyon entrance, another group of riders, likely hunters tracking them. We can't outrun them for long, Gabriel muttered, voice grim. We'll need to fight or hide. Clara's heart raced. Her hands tightened on the satchel straps. She realized the night's survival demanded more than endurance, it demanded action, courage, and trust in the haunted gunman beside her. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the canyon walls. Clara caught a glimpse of the scars on Gabriel's hands, the tension in his shoulders, the grim determination in his eyes. Every motion he made was calculated, honed by years of facing danger and loss. The hunters drew closer, their voices sharp against the storm. Gabriel gestured silently. Stay behind me, he instructed, and don't make a sound. The air crackled with anticipation. Clara's pulse thundered as they pressed deeper into a narrow ravine, the storm battering the canyon and the hunters closing in. Every instinct screamed fear, but she forced herself to move, to follow, to trust the man whose past was as dangerous as their pursuers. For a moment, the world narrowed to three things: the canyon, the storm, and the man at her side. Clara realized she was no longer just running from danger. She was confronting it, choosing to face the storm with him, knowing that the choices made tonight could not be undone. Gabriel's eyes met hers briefly. No words were exchanged, but the unspoken understanding was clear. Trust was fragile, survival was fleeting, and the night would demand everything they had. The canyon loomed ahead, dark and foreboding. Ahead lay danger, but also the only chance for survival. The rain had ceased, leaving the canyon slick with mud and scattered debris. Clara's boots slipped with every step, her muscles trembling from exhaustion. Gabriel moved ahead, eyes scanning the jagged walls for any sign of the hunters. Every motion precise and deliberate. "Stay close," he instructed. "The canyon may look calm, but danger is still everywhere." Clara followed, gripping her satchel tightly. The night had tested her fear, fatigue, and distrust had gnawed at her resolve, but she realized that surviving now required action, not hesitation. Ahead, a narrow ledge forced them to walk in single file. A misstep could send them tumbling into jagged rocks below. Gabriel reached out to steady her as she moved forward, his hand firm and unyielding. "You've come far," he said quietly, eyes on the path. "But the canyon doesn't forgive mistakes." Clara swallowed, nodding. Every moment felt suspended between life and death. She felt the weight of the night behind her, and the responsibility of survival pressing on her shoulders. A sudden snap of a branch echoed through the canyon. Clara froze. Gabriel raised his pistol, moving toward the sound. Emerging from the shadows were two riders, hunters, eyes sharp, rifles ready. "Hold them off," Gabriel whispered, voice steady but laced with tension. "I'll lead her past." Clara's heart thundered. She wanted to flee, to hide, but adrenaline sharpened her focus. She steadied herself, keeping low, listening to the hunter's movements. Gabriel moved with lethal precision, gunshots echoing against stone as he engaged the hunters. Clara's pulse raced, but she understood now. Survival demanded courage and decisiveness, not fear. The canyon was alive with danger, and every step was a choice between life and death. Clara's trust in Gabriel, fragile and tentative, was now a lifeline, as they relied on each other to navigate the treacherous path ahead. Lightning from the previous night had left pools of water in the canyon, reflecting the early dawn light. Clara glimpsed Gabriel's determined face, scarred and haunted, and realized the weight he carried. A lifetime of past sins, now tempered by the choice to protect her at any cost. The hunters were relentless, but Clara felt a spark of resolve. The night had forged them into allies. Now, facing dawn, she knew the coming confrontation would demand everything: courage, trust, and the willingness to risk it all. The canyon glimmered in the first light of dawn, wet rocks reflecting streaks of gold and gray. Clara's legs trembled from exhaustion, but she pressed on, keeping close to Gabriel. Every step was careful, deliberate. One misstep could mean falling into the jagged rocks below or being caught by the hunters still pursuing them. Gabriel's eyes scanned constantly, hands tight around his pistol. The haunted expression she had glimpsed the night before had hardened into grim determination. He had made a choice long ago, to protect no one, to trust no one. But tonight, he carried both Clara and her fate in his hands. "Here," he muttered, motioning toward a narrow outcrop. "We can make a stand." Clara followed, heart hammering. The hunters emerged from the shadows, guns raised, faces twisted in anger and greed. Gabriel stepped forward, gun leveled, voice steady. "Back off. You don't want this fight." One hunter sneered, raising his rifle. Gabriel didn't hesitate. A flash, a shot, and the man fell, the echo bouncing off the canyon walls. Clara's pulse surged, adrenaline and fear mingling. "You have to move," Gabriel shouted, grabbing her hand. No time to hesitate. Clara nodded, her fear transformed into action. Together, they ran along the precarious ledge, Gabriel covering her as shots rang out behind them. Every step demanded courage. Every breath felt stolen from death itself. A sudden collapse of loose rock blocked their path. Gabriel assessed quickly. "Jump with me," he commanded. Trusting him completely, Clara followed. They landed hard on the other side, mud and stones sliding beneath them, but alive. For a moment, silence. The hunters were stopped by the collapse, unsure of the way forward. Clara gasped, heart pounding, realizing the canyon had become both prison and shield. Gabriel's gaze met hers, In the fire of the night's survival and the dawn's confrontation, something had changed. The haunted gunman, scarred, solitary, dangerous, had become an anchor. Trust, forged in terror and necessity, now carried weight heavier than fear. The canyon stretched ahead, silent but alive with past and present threats. Clara adjusted her satchel, standing straighter, feeling the first flicker of control over her own destiny. Gabriel nodded once, almost imperceptibly, acknowledging her courage. Together, they moved forward, leaving the storm, the hunters, and the shadows of the past behind. The canyon, brutal and unforgiving, had tested them, shaped them, and in the process, bonded to broken lives with the raw, fragile threads of trust, courage, and survival. The morning light caught Gabriel's weathered face as he looked ahead. "We make it through this," he said quietly. "We keep moving. Nothing else matters." Clara's lips curved into a faint smile. The haunted Western gunman had risked everything and, in doing so, changed the course of both their lives forever.